Continuing on with cloud concepts, we need to talk about the different ways that you can run your code in the cloud. You might think, well, I have a Windows server here with my server room, and I'm just going to get a Windows server hosted in the cloud, and that's certainly the easiest way to migrate into the cloud. But you might want to consider just packaging up your code and letting Azure run it on its own hardware, or even redesigning and re-architecting your code so that it runs as microservices. There are a few different computing paradigms when it comes to cloud computing. In this video, we'll talk about them. Next up, we're going to talk about those as a service things that are within the requirements. So first up is infrastructure as a service. That's abbreviated IaaS. Sometimes IaaS, but that's an acronym. So infrastructure as a service. Now, these are typically infrastructure, which is virtual machines, networking, load balancers, firewalls, all of those things that you would have to purchase and install within your own data center or within your own corporate environment that you're renting. So that is infrastructure. And like a thing like a virtual machine is basically a Windows or Linux operating system that is bare. It doesn't do anything by itself. You have to go and develop the software or install the programs to get it to run. Okay, so that is the lowest level that you can get within a cloud environment. The next higher level is called platform as a service, PaaS or PaaS. That basically means that you just have to upload the code and the cloud provider would take care of executing it. So these are typically things like web apps, okay? So you're going to upload the code and then you upload some configuration and the cloud provider will execute it, but you don't have direct access to the hardware. You don't even know really what kind of hardware it runs on, okay? It basically, they give you a promise of performance, but you're not basically in charge of the C drive and the D drive and the number of CPUs and all that stuff. The next higher level is called software as a service. And these are the types of software applications that you would typically install on your own server. So you might have SQL Server, or you might have Microsoft Word, or any of these kinds of softwares. But instead of installing them on your own servers, they're available for you to use within the cloud. And effectively, like something like SQL Server, it's already there. You're not developing software. They provide you the software and you just do the configuration. So you create tables and you create the databases, the schemas, the store procedures. Obviously, there's some code involved in some of that stuff, but you cannot, you're not writing C++ code for SQL Server, right? It's another abstraction layer above the platform as a service. So let's talk about the differences. So we talked about infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and your traditional having your own server installed in your own environment. This graphic makes a good example of the compare and contrast. So on the left side, you have the server running in your office. That means you are responsible for everything. You have to purchase the server, you have to plug it into the power, plug it into the network, assign it an IP address, make sure the hard drives are there. If there is any kind of VMware or anything that runs on top of that, installing the operating system, all of your server software, your own code, your own data, anything you install. Okay, so on the left, you are responsible for installing, maintaining, managing all of it. When you move into the infrastructure as a service model, then basically the cloud provider, in this case Microsoft Azure, provides you with networking, servers, storage, the operating system. You go online, you go into the Azure portal, you choose a Windows 2016 server with 4 CPUs and 8 gigabytes of RAM. They provide that to you, and they're responsible for providing that to you. And if they don't provide that to you, then you have the right, obviously, to be upset with them and to contact their support. But everything above that is your responsibility. So you're given this operating system, but then you get to install applications into it, the C drive, the D drive, your own software, third-party software, setting that up, providing the internet role or the file server role or FTP role, whatever role you want to run it in. That's entirely your choices. And you'll see in the blue, those are the things that you're responsible for. In the middle there, we got platform as a service, and that is basically taking away, you're not installing applications into a platform as a service, you're uploading code. You're uploading packages, configuration, setting up the data access, but everything below that is being delivered by the cloud provider. Again, it's another level of abstraction above infrastructure. And finally, on the right, something like SQL Server being provided to you in the cloud, Azure SQL Database in this case, All of that is provided by the provider, and you're just setting up the configurations and using the software as it's designed, and that's software as a service. So those are the contrasts between this. It's a level of responsibility. The farther to the right you get, the less like it is having a server within your own environment, and the more it is like you just log into the web and you have, you have a function that you can just upload code to.